We do roll call, please?
Roll call.
Mr. Brown. Mr. Albright.
Here.
Mr. Arnold. Ms. Banks. Here. Ms. Bell.
Present.
Ms. Carter. Ms. Clark. Here. Dr. Elhai. Here. Ms. Friedman.
Here.
Reverend Warden. Ms. Harding. Ms. Howe.
Here.
Mr. Lambert.
Here.
Ms. Mendoza-La. Here. Ms. Rodriguez.
Here.
Mr. Salas.
Present.
Major White. Here. Recognition of visitors. Mr. Arnold with that. Kate Keller, board staff.
Okay, Judge. We're going to do the oath of office for our two newest trustees today. And we've asked Judge Puffenberger to do the honors, so if you two could come on up and
Woohoo!
Obviously, I want to thank you for inviting me
Don't they
tonight.
have to swear again here?
Some of you may not be aware of how involved our court is in individual mental health. But we currently have in Lucas County about 2,300 people under guardianship.
I was appointed.
With some different types of issues, but we also, you may not know, our court does all of the involuntary commitment hearings for 23 counties, which we have on Thursdays, and those sometimes evolve into forced medication hearings. So we are in contact a lot with people with mental health issues. Not all of them are lawyers, sorry.
Good one.
But
That's a
anyway,
good one.
I don't know if you knew our contact, so I have regular contact with Scott, and he's been real helpful with our guardianship services program, which is really, really important to us. And we thank this board for being involved in that. That they now have, I don't know, 200 maybe wards?
I think it's a little less than 100.
And that's a very valuable service. These are people who need guardians that have no family members, no friends to come forward. They have nobody to be their guardian. And without the Guardianship Services Board, you know, we always used to appoint lawyers, but, you know, that's hard. They have a big docket, and the Guardianship Services Board is doing wonderful work for us, and I really appreciate this board, you know, helps out with that board. It's a valuable resource for people in our community. And thank you, Scott. And then I'll do what I'm supposed to do. Hey, so Dan, come on, hold up over here. We have a sign over here. We'll get Scott. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear, I'm sorry, I state your name.
I
Do solemnly swear that I will faithfully support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that I will perform my duties as a member of the Mental Health Recovery Services Board of Lucas County, to the best of my ability. Welcome aboard.
Okay, so we'll move on to Planning and Oversight Committee meeting minutes from June 3rd, 2025. You'll see those on page 1 through 6. Is there a motion?
I move to accept them as submitted.
Is there a second? Second. Any questions? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We'll move on to item number 6, fiscal year 2025 financial update.
So there's not financial statements at this meeting. Normally you would see every other month that we present, every month that we present financial statements. This month would have been May, but we decided that since the fiscal year is already over, presenting May would not tell you much information. So we're going to present May and June together, hopefully next month, and then we'll get back on the normal cycle for reporting. There's not a lot, we have May financials closed, but there was not a lot of activity that was out of the ordinary. It was our normal grant payment month. We are trending where I have been saying we've been trending, so our biggest variance at the end of the year is likely gonna be in Danny's place. But that project-wide is not gonna be a variance, it's just this fiscal year and how we had it broken out. So I can answer any questions if anyone has any. If not, you can expect those financials next month.
Moving on to item number 7, Peace County 2024 calendar year audit.
So many of you know that our payments all get processed through the county. So we are part of their audit and their procedures. And their 2024 calendar year audit was released. And I am happy to report that we had no findings related to our funds. We had.
It's a big deal.
Yes. A lot was chosen this year as major programs, so they tested in detail. I have them listed in there. The ARPA funds through City of Toledo, crisis funds from Ohio Moss, Danny's Place funds through Ohio Moss, prevention, treatment, DYS, AUD, and pass-through funds from Ohio Moss. So our total federal funds for the calendar year was about 12.8 million, and they tested in detail 6.8 million. So, I mean, they tested over half, and we had no findings or issues. So I want to give a shout out to my team because they worked really hard to make sure that we are being accountable and doing what we're supposed to be doing. So,
Any other questions about the audit? Move on to number 8 then, Access to Wellness Program, Elijah.
Good afternoon and welcome back, everyone. So the Access to Wellness Program has been a program the board has funding that the board has received from the State Department for several years now. However, they are starting to sunset this program. This program is specific for people who've experienced a number of hospitalizations, who may be currently incarcerated in jail, who may be in competency restoration, and it can provide treatment and recovery supports for individuals to pay for like housing, transportation, emergency food and shelter for these things. Because the state's sunsetting it, this is kind of the last year we're going to receive funding in the current format we get it. So you'll see in this, we're gonna get an additional 26,000-ish from the state for fiscal year 25, plus any money we have for the next fiscal year, plus any money we have left over from the past fiscal year. So we're finalizing those invoices now. We're expecting around 80 to 90 total in the carryover funding that we'll be requesting to enter into this fiscal year. So you can kind of see the criteria below. It's towards the bottom of page 7. Historically, eligible individuals could receive up to $8,000 to pay for different types of service, again, like housing, treatment, food. Because our providers did a really good job of identifying individuals this year who qualified for the funding, we were able to use a lot of that money, and we were able to request additional funding for people who went over the $8,000 because of things like waiting on Social Security to kick in, those type of things. We're reducing the total amount available per individual to make the money last longer. There are some case-by-case basis we'll allow for consideration, but we're going to cap that around 3,200 so we can ensure utilization is available through the fiscal year. So you can see the motion on the top of page 8, we're, just to walk you through, we're accepting the allocation of 26,000 along with whatever carryover funding will be allowed from the State Department. We don't have that total yet, but again, we're anticipating about 80 to 90,000 in carryover. From there, we'll designate that as a pool of funding for contracted providers who Zeph, Harbor Unison, Ohio Guidestone, and St. Paul's and NPI have been participating in this along with TASC. And then the Guardianship Services Board will be able to kind of draw from that based on their eligible participants. So that's a program we get very involved with. The referrals come directly to us, so we work directly with the providers to identify them and make sure expenses are allowable. So you'll see that motion there for your consideration.
Is there a motion to approve?
Some, I have a question.
I'll second it.
Any questions?
My first, well, I guess it's not so much a question as it is, I want to encourage staff as they look at these case-by-case considerations above and beyond that amount of money, to do it in a way that you've thought about ahead of time, so that you've got criteria, basis, whatever framework is, sort of planned out to avoid running into a situation where we could be, someone in hindsight could say, well, you know, the monies, you made exceptions for this, but not for this, and that this has a disparate impact, or, you know, to avoid running into any of those kinds of concerns. And by looking at it, considering it ahead of time, rather than after
And
the fact.
formalize it.
Yeah.
I'm in total agreement that that was one of my big concerns when I heard on a case-by-case basis. That needs to be formalized and followed in all cases.
Right.
So that we as a board can say that the staff,
It's even-handed.
it was
and
even-handed
thought
and,
about it.
right.
Are providers that people can make these referrals?
Yes, so our,
It has to be a provider.
yes, because they are, it's on a reimbursement basis, so the provider makes the purchase and then submits it to us for reimbursement.
But this could be somebody who was released and needs help with housing. And that would have to be like, if they're a client of Zeph would have to be present.
Yeah, so Unison, we've got a lot of utilization from the act. So they've already even made some purchases this fiscal year for some clients. So that those are the takeaways to us on a monthly basis.
Did I miss how many people have been helped? I don't, is it in here?
No, it's not.
People? Oh, okay. You know, do you know?
We can get you that.
Yeah, we can get that.
I'm just curious, because it's kind of personal. Of course, we all have someone who is struggling with them.
Yeah, I will say we significantly increased the referrals from than the previous fiscal years. And I think part of that was bringing that in-house. Previously, we contracted with Able to kind of manage the process, but we were able to cut down on some of the administrative costs, so more money went to clients, and then we were able to increase the referrals through that.
Yeah.
And our partners as well.
So I understand the thought of wanting to lower a limit to extend it, but what was the thought behind cutting it in half? And how will that impact the people that were receiving a $8,000.
Yeah, so we've thought about that. A lot of this funding went to housing. And we are cutting it initially, because this funding should be used as a last resort. And we need to encourage everybody to make sure we're utilizing all the resources out there. That's why it is a case-by-case basis, because we have had a number of people who have been waiting in limbo for Social Security to start, like months at a time. So that has put their housing in jeopardy. So we were able to work with the state to get additional funding for them. But, with the way the world is, things going on in the world, we're anticipating more need than we probably have funding for. That's why we want to kind of work with our providers to try to maximize resource utilization before just relying on these funds.
What's different between this program and a program like the neighborhood housing? Do y'all work together with them? How is this different?
Yeah, so the like neighborhood properties.
Neighborhood properties, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. 'Cause-
Yeah, they're one of our partners in this. We
Okay.
give them direct allocation for housing.
Okay,
This can be used for like group homes.
Yeah.
So a lot of people coming out of like the hospital may need to a group home stay, but may have to wait for like RSS eligibility or Social Security. This is kind of to be used in the meantime.
sure.
Until they get, all their benefits lined up.
Okay.
So you mentioned Social Security, is there a provision here where if they get a lump sum on retroactive Social Security, that they have to make the program whole? Because some of them get like 20, 30, 40,000 retro. And is there a way to try to recoup those benefits to help other populations, or is it a wash?
It's a wash. We try to avoid that, and we work with Social Security to kind of monitor when, we think those are going to get approved. It's only happened once or twice, and we've had to cut off the additional requests for, because we've had some wait a significant time.
And I'm assuming it also impacts like OWF families that are in the system, mental health system, but their OWF still waiting for approval or recertification, same thing?
For this program, you only need to meet eligibility, and it is, all purchases are for the eligible individual. So examples have come up where maybe someone wanted to buy a gift for their child, and that would have benefited their mental health. That's an ineligible expense because it's not directly for them. So those are the kind of requests we monitor in our process of approving all of this.
Oh, that's a great program. Thank you.
Any questions?
Any other questions? We have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those against? Those abstaining? Motion passes. Moving on to item number 9, Ohio Mosque Community Transition Program. Elijah?
So now that you have a thorough understanding of access to wellness, this program is actually very similar. It is funding we've gotten from, we got it from Ohio Mosque. It's called the Community Transition Program, and it's specifically for offenders re-entering the community from MHRSB facilities or the correction center. We partnered with TASK to do this. Purchases are really about for treatment, costs, and recovery services, things, housing, transportation, work stuff again. We have an amount here which includes a carryover that we're requesting from the state, so this would be all pending. The full amount would be pending the state's approval. We're asking for authorization for 95, pending that carryover. carry over to go to task for a very similar program to Access to Wellness, except that it's specifically for offenders who are re-entering the community. TAS has done very well with this program and getting people kind of the things they need to have a successful reintegration back into Willis County. So you'll see that motion towards the bottom of page 8.
So then,
Elijah? I'm sorry, I don't know.
no, it was me,
Oh, sorry.
my fault, I was speaking on it.
So Elijah, like the program we just talked about, is there a limit to how much, because I don't see that attached.
There's not a limit to this. TAS works directly with the clients and kind of manages, because they get the full allocation for this. So their case managers and clinical director directly manage this funding.
Is there a motion on the table? Is there a second? Now, any other questions?
Is there an opportunity for the, let's say, the same individual to pull from both?
No. Yeah, different criteria.
Any other questions? All those in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those abstaining? Motion passes. Moving on to item number 10, health officer designation on page 8 and 9.
Yes, so, we met this, initial go over, applications, we received a total of 8 new applications and 7 renewals. And we are anticipating more of those applications coming through over the next few months as we, readdress my policy and working with our providers to identify different people to become health officers. So you'll see on the top of page 9, you'll see the 8 new designations and the 7 renewals for your consideration.
Is there a motion to approve the health officer designation as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
There you go.
Any questions?
So at one point, we were given sort of the demographic breakdown of this. Does that still exist? Is that something that we can see at future meetings?
Yeah, we provide that periodically. There hasn't been, from the last one to this one, there hasn't been much movement because people also fall off these agencies and they're not really to go renew. So there's like movement, but you can't see it in the chart because you're kind of replacing one for one in a lot of it. So we do plan to provide that periodically, just to be looking to this weekend.
I was gonna ask the same.
Yeah,
I was too.
And what about these new folks? I know you're not, so the new people that came in, you're saying that is comparative to what it was before?
Yeah, the chart, you won't see a lot of variation. Yeah, but we do provide the kind of a summary of the demographics for our new applicants within the motion. You'll see that on page 8. And we do that every time when there's more than kind of 1 or 2.
Any other questions?
Okay, I see it.
I guess I would encourage that if we're not seeing any improvement in demographics, that maybe we give some thought, some brainstorming to what, if anything, we can do to try to achieve some improvement.
Yeah, I think we are offering, we're working with Zeph, who provides the training, to offer it a few more times. So I think, we just need more time for them to go through the training and then get all the application materials to us.
And maybe encourage our providers to encourage people that they think are good candidates
Oh,
to
absolutely.
get the training and get the process.
So, Elijah, when Seth does these trainings, when we give you additional times, is it like always gonna be like during the weekday time, or are we looking at maybe evenings or weekends, or is there an opportunity for to expand that for somebody who might not be able to go home?
We've only done afternoon trainings. That fits with Zeph's schedule, and then we work with the providers who are authorized to have health officers to kind of identify a time and identify people to go to them, because we want a fairly full group of people. So Zeph isn't, because it's about a 3-hour training, so it's a significant portion of time they're dedicating to it for the day. So we want to make sure that we have a good pool there to benefit from it.
Any other questions? We have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor of the motion as presented, signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstaining? Motion passes. Moving on to item number 11, the City of Toledo ARPA fund allocation. I'm on page 9 and 10. What?
Yes, so you'll remember we were allocated some funds from the city of Toledo. Through ARPA, we've been using those funds, but we have some underspending, so we're recommending kind of reallocating that underspending so we can fully utilize the money we received from the city of Toledo. So we're just recommending reallocations to programs we had previously funded, so you'll know with these. At the bottom, you'll see a little chart. $20,000 to the Hospital Access Collaborative Pilot Program, which we'll talk more about in the next motion. 50 to the Community Wellness Grants. 10,000 to the Northwest Ohio Parents of Murdered Children. And the remaining of the carryover at 41 would go to Good Grief Northwest Ohio. Specifically, Parents of Murdered Children and Good Grief. We communicated with them because this funding has to be spent by the end of this calendar year, so by the end of December. So we wanted to make sure that we gave them money that they could actually spend in that time frame. And we got confirmation that they're able to spend this from starting July 1st through that. And then you'll see a motion to that effect towards the top of page 10.
We have a motion. A second, please.
Second.
Any questions?
What was the criteria used in the allocation of these unspent dollars?
So we decided our priority programs, which would have been the hospital access and how much we could spend during that time, community wellness grants, and then how much then we wanted to provide funding to the 2 grief support groups that we did through ARPA. Parents of murdered children is more volunteer, it was less infrastructure. So we based it on kind of a half year for their out from last year, which was about 10. And then Good Grief would receive the rest, which they were about 85.
These funds been impacted at all by the new administration? Do you know?
Not to my
Not at all?
knowledge.
Okay.
The community wellness grants, is this in addition to what we're already doing?
Yes, so we won't be releasing new RFPs. We are going to look through and see which, from our past recipients, who closely aligned with addressing violence, which was one of the priorities within the mini grants, and refund those and that's mainly because of the time frame. We have to spend this money by the end of the year. So we're gonna, Mike and his team are gonna look past at who was successful at utilizing the funding and who most closely aligned with addressing violence.
So do they get additional funds?
Yeah, so this bit, we will give a couple of them additional funds.
I'm not familiar with Good Grief in Northwest Ohio. What do they,
Yeah, Good Grief
Provide
Northwest
counseling?
Ohio is a grief support group for children who experience loss.
thank you.
Any questions? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion passes. Moving on to item number 12, Hospital Access Collaboration Pilot Program, page 10 and 11.
So this program began earlier this year in January. And this program is really intended to identify individuals who are currently in the Lucas County Jail who need hospitalization, who have been kind of non-restorable or non-violent. The program goal is to try to move these people from the jail to private hospitalization at first. So we've been working with our partners, Mercy, or Diagnostic Treatment Center, was working for, and ZEPS and or Phoenix's Act team provide follow-up to kind of streamline the process, work on identifying any issues with just these number of partners and transitions that have to occur. So we've been doing that. In the second paragraph, you'll see some of our preliminary outcomes. A lot of the ones we're tracking, we haven't had enough time with the clients to judge if we've been successful or not. We're tracking about one or two referrals a month to this program. So this program is reimburse St. Charles up to $1,000 a day for hospitalization. That's for people who do not have insurance. For people who have insurance, we provide an enhanced rate of additional $200. So they bill their insurance and then they invoice us for an additional $200 for that. What we're recommending is $50,000 to be allocated from our mental health block grant, and then $20,000 to approve with ARPA to braid those together to create this up to $1,000 rate for hospitalization in St. Charles, the Behavioral Health Institute. So this is through because of ARPA funding. This approval was through the end of December. Now, we already did approve some funding for this that we're continuing, which is why you'll see the difference in the motion. But you can kind of see that on page 11. So there's two motions for you to consider for this project. The allocating the 50 from the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services block grant for the period of July 1st through the end of June to be used for those hospitalizations at St. Charles. And then a total of $33,400 from ARPA. That $13,400 had already been approved through the motions previously, but that total then we'll allocate that and revise our current agreement with St. Charles for the period listed below. So, and we'll continue to track these outcomes and stuff and provide that as necessary. We're hoping to get more time with the client so we can kind of see more success in this program.
Question, potentially, when you say hospitalization, outpatient or inpatient? Or both?
Inpatient.
Inpatient.
Yeah. So once they go into St. Charles for hospitalization, they're quickly referred to Unison for their ACT team, which is intense outpatient treatment model. The ACT team will do engagement while they're in St. Charles and follow them upon discharge.
Okay, second question, if they're in there and you mentioned they don't have any coverage, right, and this shows out that, do you try to find out if the hospitals have done the HCAP program to try to defray the cost instead of, throwing $1,000 a day, but they haven't done due diligence to try to get HCAP to cover some of the expenses?
No. That's the short answer,
Yeah.
no. And just as a reminder, HCAP funds the hospital, doesn't fund the doctor's cost.
Right, so that would
So
be-
then the doctors have no incentive to admit the patient because they're not getting paid.
So this is a way to try to capture. Okay, all right, thank you.
Before we go on to any other questions, can we get a motion on the table? Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move.
Is there a second? Any other questions?
I assume if this is successful, you will include other courts besides Toledo Municipal Court.
We can talk.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Those demographic, I mean, the outcomes they seem to be really good so far. I mean, 6 out of 7 were placed in stable housing upon hospital discharge. It's a great outcome.
Dan, did you have something?
Yeah, so if they have insurance that fully covers their stay, we also give them $200.
Yeah, it's to enhance the rate, because the population, this population has been historically been denied hospitalization from the jail, and they can be very challenged to work with in that setting, in the outpatient setting.
The core of my question, I guess, is that if they're fully covered by their insurance, why are we giving them $200? But that-
An incentive.
that helps.
Any other questions?
So in the future, is this going to stay with, to St. Charles, or is there, like, a follow usually, or other folks that will?
At this point, Mercy has indicated their interest in this type of project.
You have to want to. It is. Situation.
And I will say, I'll just add that Mercy has done a really great job of approving patients in a very timely manner. We're getting approvals for admission in less than 24 hours. And at the beginning, we had a couple denials, but since then, Mercy has really gotten on board with just saying yes.
Any other questions? We have a motion and a second. So all those in favor of the motion signify by aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to item number 13. And this is
Elijah, you want? No. Okay, everybody, I just have a very quick one here. Another milestone is being reached, and before I go into the presentation on, in the middle of page 11, I want to remind you of our ribbon cutting ceremony for Danny's Place on August 13th, starting at 11:30. We will have a short, a number of speakers, and then we will do walk through the facility itself. And we expect to have a big crowd, and we hope to see all of you there as well. But another milestone is progressing. That is the contract for the administrator / operator. As you recall, Unison Health won the RFP. Back in April, we gave them a $25,000 startup grant to get the ball rolling. That covered April, May, and June. To their credit, they basically said, we're just gonna do what we need to do. We're not gonna bill that. We're gonna save that money for the next contract. And thankfully, that is occurring. Because we are now at a place where we are starting to understand what the startup costs will be. But we are not at a place where we understand what the total operational costs will be, mainly on the revenue side. Okay, we have a good idea of what the expense side will look like. We're still trying to figure out the revenue side. And that comes into play because Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, through the Department of Medicaid, has not indicated how much they're going to contribute to fund these projects. and there is a regional conversation that needs to happen with the other 10 boards that make up the Northwest Ohio region regarding the reimbursement rate. So that conversation is pending. In the meantime, we have to fund Unison startup so they can start to get the place operational. If you've been watching, they're doing heavy recruitment right now for staff. The startup will include direct and indirect costs. It will also include the purchase of a vehicle, and computerization laptops are the two biggest costs. There will be a reconciliation at the end of the 4-month period. And within this 4-month period, we'll be working with our partners, Ohio Department of Mental Health via Medicaid and the 10 other boards to put a revenue package together on how to cover what is very likely going to be somewhere around $150,000 a month expenses between what we are able to provide and what Medicaid reimbursements they'll have to offset this expense. So the motion is from retroactive to July 1 through October 31st, $400,000. October 31st, 2025. Probably at the October meeting, we will come back with conversation of what the operational expenses will look like and have the revenue settled out as far as what we need to collect from others.
So that upfront cost that includes the laptops, the vehicles, staffing.
Staffing is primarily, and there's the facility, it's a new build, new construction, right? So there are a lot of odds and ends that, you know, when you walk into an existing facility, you might have, like waste baskets. That all of that has to be purchased. Some of that's built into our construction contract, but there's a lot of other things that, you know, the supplies and stuff like that, that they'll have to ramp up on.
Can we get a motion on the table? Is there a motion to, is there a second? All right, any other questions regarding this?
The $150,000 a month, are you saying that will be on top of?
No, once they become operational,
Okay.
clients will be coming in the door. That is when it'll start to be somewhere around $150,000 a month. That's what they're estimating. A portion of that will be paid on a per diem, maybe $300 a day, $350 a day. The remainder will be billed to Medicaid. Not in
Good answer, right?
How is the signage on this? It's gonna say Danny's Place. I haven't been over there. Is it gonna recognize Unison at all on the outside?
No, it will not.
It will not.
No, it will not.
Okay.
Danny's Place, it's built into the lease, although we don't have a signed lease right now. Danny's Place is the only outside signage, and Unison requirements will be to reference the place as either Danny's Place or Danny's Place operated by Unison Health.
Any other questions?
Unison is a contract, and there may come a time when that contract comes to them that they'll
Somebody
be
else.
going back out. I think that it's important for us as a board to understand that this is not Unison, this is Danny's Place.
Yeah. That's what I was wondering
Separate.
about the signage, was there any kind of collaboration there?
We're trying to honor the spirit of the way the facility was
Sure.
developed, and in fact, I did not say, we won't be allowing any inside signage that is visible from the outside that identifies it as Unison Health as well.
Any other questions about Danny? So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? signify by aye. All those opposed? Any abstaining? Motion passes.
Just one other thing. if I'm allowed to. The sign is up on the front monument.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
I haven't been by
It's
there.
gorgeous. Most of the furniture is in now. Landscape is gonna get redone next week or at the end of this week, because now the grass is growing. There's some bushes that were planted that have died and they're gonna do all the weed and everything. Facility is 100% clean now. They're just doing the little pick list stuff. And I think you guys are gonna be really impressed.
Okay, moving on to item number 14. The City of Toledo's Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement Partnership for Youth Mental Health First Aid Training. Michael?
Also, good opportunity to share exciting information about our collaboration. You guys may remember back in the spring, Spark came to young ladies from CPS and they presented what they were doing. One of the things that they were kind of adamant about that they wanted to see was youth mental health first aid for the staff in the schools to be able to better assist with them. Well, that request is being honored in a way that I think is exceptional. The City of Toledo's Mayor's Office, MONC as we call it, has a grant that's through their Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. The grant was titled Enhancing School Capacity to Address Youth Violence. So TPS teachers will be able to go through youth mental health first aid training. TPS is going to provide those instructors that go through the training salary for that day. And then the mental health board, we're going to be providing the training and the certification process. So the things that we already do for youth mental health first aid as far as books, the materials, and the instructors. And so it's just an awesome opportunity for us to be able to reach those targeted schools that CPS and the Mayor's Office have identified. And so because it's already a part of our administrative budget, this year we don't need any additional requests. So that's why there's no budget allocation asked for. But in the future, the next year or two, we will come back and ask for that to be a part of the budget so that we can continue the work that we're already doing. But it's just a great opportunity to see those three organizations be able to partner together to make sure that teachers have that access to the training. Because one of the concerns is that youth mental health first aid, it's an 8-hour training, so they lose a day of work, right? So this is an opportunity where we're able to do it throughout the school year and not just in the summer to be able to meet the needs for TPS and their students. And we're really excited about it. So thanks for the opportunity to present it and for you guys awareness about it.
Great. Are you able to tell us the schools that they targeted?
I can't say you want to on top of my head.
Okay.
I do know that Scott, I know for sure is one of those schools. I believe Wade's one of those schools.
We did ask that the schools that have the SMART programs are
SMART
targeted
program.
as well.
Right. Yeah, we want to make sure each school with a SMART program was actually included as well, because we didn't want the students to come in, ask for the program, and then their school's not being included, right? And so we made sure of that as well. So it's something that will be big, will really be announced. They're really just waiting on us. We knew we had to get our approval this way, and from there we would just begin to move forward with what it is that we're doing and moving things forward in a very responsible way.
Awesome.
Is, in upcoming years, at some point, is the plan that every TPS school will have an instructor, a teacher that's been through the program?
So two of the things that we discussed with them was that making sure that it would eventually be able to reach all the schools, the high schools, maybe the middle schools. And then secondly, that they would look for additional funding so that they were able to train their own instructors to handle their mental health first aid, so that's sustainable for TPS. Right now, they have to go through us as the entity that's training their instructors, but it would be better for them to have their own 16 instructors where they can host this training at any time that they would want to host it as well. So those were two things that we discussed with them.
So they is TPS, not
TPS.
Smart.
Well, Sparks within TPS.
Okay.
It's just a program
TPS.
inside school.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
If there's no other questions of Michael, we'll move on to our mental health recovery services board policy review. We'll start with the financial policy.
So the first one I have is on page 14, and you guys can see it on the screens too. in case you don't have it.
Yeah, they don't have them in the packets. Yeah.
So this one is authorized use of procurement cards, and it looks like there's a lot of changes, but the reality is, we've had this policy for a long time, and I've been dragging my feet on us using P cards because I don't like credit cards. It creates a lot of risk. We've been internally though struggling a bit with some things like QuickBooks that only accepts credit cards to pay for. So we are now going to be implementing this. The county policy, we would go through the county for this. The county policy is 26, 29 pages. It's a very long policy. And it's very clear that if you want to participate, you follow their rules. And some of the things are, I mean, they lay out very specific things. And when I looked through the policy that we had, a lot of it was outdated. So what I did basically was delete everything and add a section essentially saying we are allowed to participate and we will follow the county's policy. So if there are any questions about that, I'll move on.
And is the county's policy gonna be made somehow like an appendix or something to our
Yes,
to our
but
document?
because it was so many pages, I did.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure that we
Yes.
have some,
When we say that with the other policies, it'll be next.
okay, thank you.
Who can use that? So they have procurement cards to purchase things. They have travel cards for traveling, and then you could get like a delegate card. So if Scott wants to travel and he doesn't want to make his hotel, maybe Wendy could do it. So there are a number of different ways that we can go about who gets the cards and how they're able to use them. And we're still kind of working through that because the county policy is so cumbersome and what makes sense, but not everyone would have access to a card. Okay, the next policy is on contract advances. And essentially what I changed there was in number 2, we previously had in our policy basically just purchase of service, our treatment, and how we could advance pay our treatment. First of all, it wasn't very clear. And second of all, it didn't factor in any of our grant funded payments. So basically I just added a section to ABC that says for grant funded payments, for reimbursement based grant payments, and then our POS payments. And then there was another number 5 down below that was duplicative, so I removed it. Any questions on that?
So this past summer, or months past, there was a circumstance, and I don't remember the providers, where because of changing in systems, we were prepaying. That scenario falls within this language and is covered and would be okay based on what you're.
So what we actually found, so the scenario you're thinking of was December or January, February, March. We wanted to advance pay the POS treatment claims because Streamline was still being processed. What we found when we went into that was that our policy wording didn't follow the provider agreement wording. So we updated the provider agreement wording at that time, and now we're updating the policy. The next one is operating fund balance preservation. The only thing really that I changed here was in the actual policy. It had listed out basically how it was calculated, which wasn't even necessarily accurate and not clear at all. So I just removed that. I think it was very confusing. And then we also changed
previously, this policy said that it would need affirmative vote of 2/3 of the Board of Trustees. We're changing it just to be approval of the Board of Trustees. Any questions on that?
Do we have any history as to why at some point this was an exception to the majority vote to a 2/3 vote? Just to, for historical perspective to know whether there was some reason behind the 2/3 for that change.
I'm gonna take a shot at that.
Okay.
I believe the 2/3 traditionally referenced dropping below your minimum established reserve. And given the significance of dropping below that, they wanted to make sure that at least 2/3 of the folks, voted affirmatively. Now those were that's carryover language from the days when we had 1.5 mils. Right? Now we have 3 mils. If I recall correctly, our minimum balance when I first was hired in 10 was $4 million. And so dropping below that was a great cause for concern. It is relative now that we're 3 mils because we're spending as much, relatively. But we loosely based our reserve off 120-day operating. And as Jenny indicated, that got a little out of whack right now. So
I'm just curious, given the current environment and money's coming to us, not coming to us, the uncertainty with certainty of increased need, is there any prudence in having something, if not 2/3, then at least a majority of the entire board, as opposed to
majority of those in attendance,
Yes.
that creates quorum.
yes.
We can do whatever you like on that.
I mean, it's just a thought, and
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Tina, that if we decided to go below our operating cost and something happens, we're stuck, we better be able to explain how we went below. Who voted and all that.
Well, we would be able to explain that, let's be
Yeah,
clear.
I
I
mean,
mean,
yeah,
we wouldn't
know
do it at
how
a
it
public
happened,
meeting, so.
yeah.
But if you're uncomfortable removing the 2/3, that's an easy fix, and we're here to.
I don't wanna suggest that I'm uncomfortable, I just think we should think about, given where we are, where we think we might be, reducing it to a majority of the board for something that. Correct. Just a thought, just, just kind of throwing it out there.
What is the language we're not on right now? It just says approval by the board. Did you say that so that it be loose enough that it means what we want it to be?
I mean, what your standard approval, so that you have a board.
Standard, okay.
It's,
I was just curious.
it's
Alright.
majority of, it's the majority of you guys. So there's 14 people here today, you gotta have 8 votes.
Never mind, I was trying to see if
Yeah.
yours would fit under that, but it doesn't, I have to write it down.
I will just say that when we had this situation in February-ish, came to you and asked for approval to go below our minimum fund balance.
Thankfully, we didn't need to, but it did create some concerns about delays of payment on our end. So, and then it got questionable, is it approval of the P&O committee and then the board, or do we go directly to the board? And if we go directly to the board, we might have to wait a whole month. I wanted it to be simpler and cleaner, but I don't have a problem with keeping it the way that it was.
Well, I think, I'm all for it simpler, but want it to be not just cleaner, we want it to be prudent, accountability and informed, so.
So we need guidance, folks. This is where you give us guidance and we'll make it happen.
Are you more comfortable just leaving it as the 2/3?
Well, I'm only one person.
No, I know.
I mean, if you wanna know what yes, I am, but I have one vote.
Is it the 2/3 of the people who are in attendance of the meeting, at the meeting?
It says of the board. Where's the language with the
Where is it?
2/3?
There is, it's at the very last sentence of the policy.
What does it say, 2/3 of the board or 2/3?
It said affirmative vote of 2/3 of the trustees.
Yeah, so that
That
language
would be-
really means of the entire, 2/3 of the entire board. So if you don't have at least 2/3 of the board here, then it's automatically gonna fail.
If you say, but with this language, upon approval of the Board of Trustees, that means just
The
of this
majority
or
of the
the,
people attending that board meeting.
The majority
A
of the
duly
majority.
a duly established quorum.
I don't understand why that's different. I understand the 2/3 versus approval, but I don't.
Board of Trustees are 17 members, 2/3 of that would be 11 point something.
So 12 people.
No, I get that. I understand the difference between 2/3 and approval. I don't understand why it's quorum versus the entire, all of us. With the language, I guess. I don't understand.
Because we can conduct business with just a quorum.
You could conduct business with 9.
I know, but where's the word quorum up there?
Well, that's statute.
That's fine, okay.
Yeah, that's statute. You can't have a meeting without a quorum. You can't have a vote
Yeah,
without
and I think someplace in our document it says a quorum is a
duly
majority.
established under the
Yeah.
governance documents.
Yeah.
But I think you're asking the right question, which is, do 17 people need to be here in order for a 2/3 vote to happen,
yeah, thank you.
right?
Yeah,
Is that- that's what you're asking.
Whatever it says up there.
Makes it sound like everybody has to be here and then 12 people
That's
need to
gonna slow
agree.
us down, which is what Jenny was saying, because maybe we just need 2/3 of who's here, so we don't slow down, you know.
It's 2/3 of
Right,
the people who are present.
and voting.
Yes.
A quorum,
If there are
after
14 of us right here,
It's
none
2/3
of
of
us
the
would need to say yes to
established
it.
that's the way I interpret.
That would be a 2/3. And you guys are Robert's rules, right?
Yeah, it's here.
Well,
I just looked it up.
no, that's not written in our documents. Yeah, and
I
that's,
think
it
it's
should be
more
of the
modified.
board and not just the committee, in my opinion.
Correct.
So it should be the board, because you said that was a question. If, for me, it should be a board decision, not a committee of the board's
And we did
decision.
take it to the board.
Yeah.
Well, but, yeah,
You can't have, the committees do not make decisions.
right,
So there is no decision, committee decision.
okay.
That is not in the charter, it's in our governance. Everything either goes through the committee and, or for the final approval directly to the board.
If I was around when it occurred and you hit the nail on the head, it was the difference between a simple majority and a supermajority function. It was to make it more difficult, exactly what you said. And that was, it was because it was a significant issue and it was the criticality of not having a lot of money. And it was, so it was not simply 9 people. And yes, what Scott said, it was to make it harder to.
I'm gonna suggest we not make that change and leave it affirmative vote of 2/3 of the board of trustees, which I would interpret as at least 2/3 of the city members have to vote affirmative. So if you had 2/3 is 12 people, if we're a full board of 18, and that constitutes a quorum, all 12 of them at a board meeting would have to vote affirmatively.
Right, which is
Right.
what that language says. If you don't have language that says present and voting, it means of the entire board. Under Robert's Rules of Order and that's just what the language, you know.
Your 17-member board, right? You would need 9 people to pass something. If you have a quorum of 9 people and one person votes no on something in your board meeting, would it fail?
Yes.
It would fail currently?
Yes.
Okay.
So the thing to do would be,
No.
Exactly.
No.
No, it would not fail.
No, it would not.
If you had 9 people present in a meeting, that would be a quorum, right?
Correct.
And if 8 of them voted yes and 1 of them voted no, the motion would pass, right?
yes.
But only 8 of 17 people voted yes on it. That's not a majority of the board. You make decisions based on the people who are present at the meeting, not the full constitution of the board.
Unless you designate in advance that it's required for the full constitution of the board. And the way you handle that is notify the board that at this meeting, there will be this vote that requires this.
And you're making a good point, and I don't want to do this on my first meeting, right? But theoretically, if 5 people in this room or 5 people on this board didn't want something to happen, they just don't come, and you can't do anything about it. And then you can't make critical decisions. They just don't show up.
Well, then it doesn't go away, it comes back to the
Right, but
the
the
next
need
meeting.
is still present. The need can't wait 30 days. People need to get paid. People need help.
Well, then we have to call it a special meeting. But, certain members of this board are appointed by appointing authorities who wanna know the attendance of people. And you missed a certain number of meetings and whoever's your appointing authority is notified that you're not fulfilling your commitment to attend meetings.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah.
Procedurally, I get that, but that could take 60, 90 days for that to happen. I mean,
I just feel like we're missing the right sweet spot for
Well,
this.
This is just for this one issue. This is just for going below our minimum, correct?
Yes.
We're not talking about changing the voting rules for every other thing.
No.
We're talking about, when we have to go below our prudent reserve, then that is a decision that some of us, including myself, say should be 2/3 of the entire board. I can't, yes, there is that chance that there's gonna be 5 outliers, but I don't see that happening I just don't see that happening.
So you're saying it should be 2/3 of the entire board as opposed to 2/3 of the established board?
For this particular thing, yes. And I believe that's how it's the original language. That's all.
So that's what that means right there.
The original,
without the red line. Yes, that's what that
It means the entire board, or does it mean the established board?
I would interpret it as the Board of Trustees, which would have been the quorum. I think if you want to do,
That's where.
well, if you want to do the sitting, if you want to add a word in there to clarify it, that you want at least 2/3 of all
Entire.
sitting trustees, then add a word in there that clarifies that.
Well, okay. But the Board of Trustees is the Board of Trustees. It's not a quorum of the Board of Trustees.
Okay, but I would go back to then frankly, I think we could solve that with just putting a word in there, whatever it is. But I would go back to the chart or the governance documents that said the board meeting, a meeting of the board is constituted with a quorum of at least 50% plus 1. or over 50%, I guess is the thing. So I think that if we're having this debate amongst ourselves, we could easily resolve it by just inserting
The entire, of the entire.
of the
board.
entire board or the sitting board members or the currently appointed board members.
I think you add the word entire. Present or not, the entire board.
Okay, so, all right, so then we're gonna split the hair even further, which is why I have somebody who's appointed but not showing up and hasn't resigned yet. Are they a board member or not?
Yeah,
All right.
if somebody, if we are asked to identify I list the names of your board of trustees, that person's name goes on there.
I thought that's what you'd said, just wanted to be clarified. Entire board, we can make that
That's just
change.
that's my legal opinion.
Well, as the current chair,
I'm just, I only have one vote, and as a chair, I don't have a vote unless I'm breaking a tie, so.
we're getting bogged down here. And we have 25 more policies at least to go over. I think we could just add approval, affirmative vote of 2/3 of the entire board of trustees and be fine with that and move on. Because I'm sensing the majority of folks are concerned about
That particular.
having a higher standard for this particular thing. All right, we'll make that change.
Great. Okay. That's it on that policy. We're moving on. Property inventories for agency capital. The only thing I changed on there was changing the board to MHRSB. And then the next one is claims processing and member enrollment platform operations. So I am recommending this for deletion because we included it in the next policy. It was a very short policy and kind of overlapped anyways. So the next policy, enrollment and update in billing platform. So we proposing a change in the name. It just better reflects what's actually in the policy. So you know that our change with going to Streamline changed a little bit of some of our policies and how things were flowing. So that's why we're recommending the name change. And then I added that first paragraph there that basically says what we're gonna fund, what policies it references. And then I added additional language that's consistent with our provider agreement. Are there questions on that? Okay, the next one is payer of last resort, first party payer subsidy. The biggest thing there is just changing the board to MHRSB. And then in the actual policy, I did some clarification of wording, like the very last sentence there is not something that we actively do, it's not a provider agreement, so that language. And then this references our subsidy schedule, so that will be an attachment as well. The next policy is federal award compliance. This policy is new. And so when we get to our audit, they ask questions like, do you have a policy on this? Because it's federally required. We do, they're just scattered throughout many policies and not as clear as I would like them to be. So we put together a policy that basically lays out our requirements under the Uniform Guidance to CFR Part 200. The first section of it basically is just saying for funds that we're going to spend, we're going to do financial management, procurement, cost principles, internal controls, be ready for the single audit. And then the last section is funds that we pass through to subrecipients and how we're going to monitor them. So I know this is completely new, so if there are questions, I'm happy to go over any of them, but most of the language comes directly from 2 CFR 200, and we have those references throughout. Okay, the next one is personal service agreement. And we are also recommending that to be deleted. I incorporated that into our purchasing policy, which is the next one. So this policy seems like there are a ton of edits, but really I just reorganized for better flow. In the procedure number 1, I referenced the section and changed the amounts. It's not 50,000 anymore. It is whatever is in 9.17, which increases by 3% every year. So I didn't put an amount in here because it's going to change. The next major thing that we changed was in B, our purchase orders. We are recommending that be changed from 250 to 500. And then you can see in the contract section, I added some language to pull in the personal service agreements policy that we're recommending. And then the rest is really just reorganization of things were messy and not super clear before that. So I am happy to answer any questions on that.
Okay, so there is a motion on page 13 to approve the 8 finance policies. Authorize use of procurement card, contract advances, operating fund balance, preservation with the proposed changes. Property inventories for agency capital, enrollment and updated billing platforms, payer of last resort, first party payer subsidiary, federal award compliance and purchasing. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Any other questions?
Where's the?
It's in the motion.
Okay, so, okay, just wanna make sure the motion is- Okay.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by aye. Those against? Those abstaining? Motion passes.
I have the old packet, that's why I didn't see it there.
Oh. Moving on to the policies under the category of mission and programming policies.
Welcome back. So, we have 6 policies that fall under the program. The majority of them have just simple changes. The 2 I'll spend time on our client's rights and eligibility for funding services. So, this probably looks like we made more changes than we actually did, but the highlights here are, we really tried to align it with Ohio Administration Code. There was just some unclarity on that, and then we incorporated the utilization of our client relationship management of the CRM. So we are going to put our client's rights issue right into that for better tracking and monitoring and reporting of that. Only certain staff have access to that application within the CRM. Protect confidentiality. So again, these aren't, a lot of this isn't changes. We just verified these addresses are up to date. We're able to go for further claims rates if their issues not resolved. And we removed some kind of unnecessary language, like it said, operate hours, or time rights officers available when needed during business time. Too specific there. And those are kind of my changes. Again, you'll see this, but the way Word does it, and this is just complicates it when you're looking at it. So those are the major changes, and then we have the client's rights. I think to streamline this policy also creates the process that we give to clients. So the policy reference that we would have a process to distribute to clients, but we don't have a process outside of the policy. So we really just streamlined it and aligned it to Ohio. So the next one here is emergency and crisis intervention services eligibility. Here we just changed, board to MHRSB and Ohio MHRSB to their updated limit. here. Facility monitoring and inspection, the same thing here, just updated MHRSB and updated Ohio laws. Again, incident notification, same thing. Just updated this language, no changes to the actual policy. And then eligibility for board-funded treatment. So this is kind of, this is a big policy, right? Because we pay for services. You'll see that we changed the GOS system to enrollment and billing platform, a generic name. So we're not stuck to the one. We removed, we added this language here because we get a lot of agencies outside of Lucas County where Lucas County residents find themselves seeking services. We don't have contracts or ability to pay for those services outside the contract. So we just clarified that in the language that we pay for Lucas County services in Lucas County with our contracted providers.
You removed the hardship waiver?
Yeah.
Did we say that?
I haven't said that yet.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah,
I just
you
wanted-
did read
so
that.
I'm reading along and then like.
Yeah, so we removed the hardship waiver, which we had already done in the subsidy schedule. So this created an interesting conundrum because a lot of the policy, the bulk of the policy was about the hardship waiver. So all this stuff around diagnosis and functional ability that qualified people under the hardship waiver would have been removed. However, we kept this in here as we consider developing a benefit package. So we wanted to keep this in here if we needed to go to this at some point to help us define what eligibility for board-funded treatment services are. And if agencies intend to restrict access because of their POS application being running out, that they'll consider the use of this criteria to help manage their POS services. So as new clients come in, for example, they may prioritize people with these diagnoses first versus other diagnoses, for example. We also changed SPMI to SMI currently. The language, and we added some language in here that encourages agencies to closely manage their POS application. We talked about the increase in cost. Obviously, this policy in and of itself can't force that, but we are really working towards building a system that helps us and our agencies better manage these allocations to serve the residents of Lucas County. And then finally, the eligibility for board-funded housing and housing supports. I'm moving it down so you can kind of see those. There's not a lot of changes here. You'll see the changes that were reflected in a lot of the other policies, changing the board to MHRSB, changing Ohio MHRSB to their updated name, changing PMI to SMI, which is SPMI, serious and persistent mental illness, to SMI, which is just serious mental illness. And then on the bottom of page 14 is a motion to approve the changes in the policies we just gone over.
Move.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other questions regarding the mission and programming policy? That motion. All Recovery Services for Lucas County follow the 6 mission and program policies contained in the packet effective September 1st, 2025. Client rights and grievances, emergency and crisis intervention services and eligibility, facility monitoring and inspection, incident notification, eligibility for board-funded treatment services, and eligibility for board-funded housing and housing supports. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The Moving on to the policies that fall under the category of operations. Steve?
Good afternoon, everyone. This should take no longer than 90 minutes. On page 58 of your packet are 4 policies. 3 of the policies are for your review, recommended approval. 1 of the policies is for our recommended deletion. First policy under operational security has been recommended for deletion as policies duplicated throughout our existing HIPAA, safety, and technology policies. This policy is a legacy. It was kind of an amalgamation of a whole bunch of different things that were lumped together and are no longer honestly functional. They list things that occurred over at 701 Adams. They list file cabinets we don't have. There's a whole bunch of things in there functionally. We're asking permission. The functionality of what is being covered is addressed in other policies. And again, this was on a legacy system we no longer have. With the infrastructure transformation project, we're now completely in the cloud. A lot of these things deal with maintenance of systems that we no longer own. So it made no sense to keep it. That's why we're recommending. Next to me is Julie Rupp, who is not only our quality manager, quality evaluations manager, but she's also our privacy officer. And I've asked her to cover number 2. Even though it's under operation, she's our subject matter expert for this.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Thank you. There are no changes to the policy, but there are some changes to the procedure. Most of the changes are language changes from board to MHRSB. Other changes include some of the location from 701 Adams to our new location here, where we are. And the biggest change is to remove the Lucas County Record Commissions, to change it to the Lucas County Record Retention Schedule, RC2. So what that means is, how long do we keep our records? And there's a schedule that the Lucas County Record Retention Office has that we follow. So there's a general Lucas County record retention policy that we follow, and then there's a section specific to our MHRSB. So that's the majority of the update, and it will be in an appendix. That particular schedule will be in an appendix in our policies.
Okay.
And there's also some name job title changes as we've shifted our job titles.
The next policy is technology security. And again, this, we had to update it because the entire platform and the way we do business is no longer the same. So it's to update the policy to appropriately reflect the ITP implementation to our cloud-based storage platform and following most commonly used standardized best practices for information technology automation management protocols. And the 4th policy we have listed is workplace safety, and these are fairly minor updates in that it does reflect that we're no longer at 701 Adams, and essentially the building is no longer a county entity, nor is it maintained by Lucas County Children's Services as tenants of the ProMedica Corporation, and it's overseen by their building management organization. It's a different schema, so we reflect that in the policy as well. And those are the changes. Policies. I'm sorry to say that.
Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second? Any questions? So on the middle of page 15.
I do have. The section in the recommendation for deletion, because it's elsewhere, all of the bullets for use of desktops, laptops, and tablets appear someplace else.
Yes. Okay. And actually, we describe it. We described it previously in internet access that we talked about in the previous, that was most of the information in here we talked about in the previously approved policies from 2 months ago. And the security component, some of it deals with the security component, and that's dealing with the current policy that you have. It's the third policy here, but most of the nuts and bolts of what's in there is what's dealt with already.
So the personal use of the internet and the laptops,
Correct, yes,
streaming the music and all of that, okay.
yes,
All right.
all covered.
Okay.
Any other questions? So the motion reads that Mental Health Secretary Stewart County approves the following policies: public record retention, technology security, workplace safety, as they are presented with the changes, and also the deletion of the organizational security policy effective September 1st, 2025. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Moving on to the policies related to privacy and security, or HIPAA. Julie?
Yes, thank you. Good evening again. Fortunately for our long, lengthy meeting, there has not been many changes to HIPAA. There are some coming in the 2026 era, but haven't started yet. So the majority of my changes are changes from board to MHRSB, and then the changes from Ohio MAS to the Department of Behavioral Health, and a few of them. So you can go through them. They're just very small changes.
Is
there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any questions on the policies that are listed on the website? So on the bottom of page 16, you'll see a motion to approve following 13 policies.
No.
Okay. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Moving on to open session, before I open it up to the audience, Dan and Jesus, if you'd like to address the board with, tell us a little bit about your background, introduce yourself a little bit.
Age before beauty.
Beauty before age.
Yes, sir. I'm Dan Lambert. I am new to Lucas County. I moved up here last year, and in moving up here, I had to give up my seat on the Wood County Alcohol, Drug Abuse, Mental Health Services Board that I served on for 6 years, chaired for 3. So it's something that is close to me. I think it's close to all of us. I'm passionate about it. I'm also an accountant, which doesn't come with a lot of passion, maybe. But I get to kind of mix something that I care about with an eye for detail, especially on the finance side. I know that boards kind of struggle sometimes with the finance eye. So I'm here for as long as you guys.
Jesus Salas, I've been in Toledo 31 years. Been associated with the Lucas County Mental Health Board through ABLE, Advocates for Basic Legal Equality. I was a managing attorney up to December 31st of this past year. Technically, I retired, but I didn't. I started my own law firm doing Social Security and immigration. I chose those 2 items, nothing more. Okay.
That's enough.
It's been an interesting ride so far on immigration. Okay. But I really love the Lucas County Mental Health Board. I think has a lot of positive services, and there are populations here that really need our services. Unfortunately, I'm also on the Library Board of Trustees, and if it's anything what we're facing there, we're facing it here in terms of financial shortages. So it's gonna be a rough ride for the next couple of years. Hopefully we can survive and come back.
Well, thank you and welcome to you. Let's, if we can just go around the table, so that we can do a little bit of introduction about ourselves to the two of you. Danetta, you wanna start? Carter,
Second term, retired from AOA. I do a lot in the community. My company's the Social Butterfly. I'm everywhere.
Julie Ruck, Manager of Quality and Evaluation.
Hi, Steve Spinelli, Director of Technology, Teacher Planning, Quality.
Christina Rodriguez, I kind of talked to them before, but, and hello, Jesus. I've been on the board for almost 5 years. It was during 2020, during COVID when I joined, and I am the executive director of a nonprofit called Mom's House, and I have a personal passion for mental health and substance abuse.
And I am Lisa Banks, and I have been on the board since 2018, I believe. Oh my goodness, it's been that long.
Yeah, it was about a year after me.
Yeah, since 2018, and I am a licensed social worker, but I also work for a agency called Ohio Can that helps provide resources for adoptive and oh my gosh, kinship families.
I'd like to forget what I did. Hi, my name is Jenna Murad Friedman, and I have been on the board since 2017. I think May was my first meeting, and it's definitely a passion of mine. I have fought to stay on this board and help to try and maneuver different appointees and things, and I am the newly appointed president of Toledo Building Services.
Ooh.
Nice.
Thank you.
Andrea Mendoza-Locke. I'm an oldie but a goodie. I've been around a long time. In fact, my husband, before he dropped me off and he said, "Are they happy to see you?" I said, "Oh, they love me." Gotta keep it going. So I've been dedicated. It's a passion I've had for a long time. Obviously, I've been involved with the board since like 1988. Different committees and different things, and then the board for a long time. But welcome. Thank you for participating. We need the commitment.
I'm Susan Billmeyer, and I'm the administrative assistant here at the board.
I'm Trish White. I am a major with Lucas County Sheriff's Office. I'm in charge of the law enforcement division, but I've started out my career inside the jail as a counselor. When I became a manager, I got very involved with the CIT program, but it's sponsored the Mental Health and Drug Services Board. So like mental health has always been a little passion subset of what I do. And I've been on the board since 2020.
Scott Silac, Executive Director, been here since 2010.
Jenny Hoffman, Director of Finance. I've been here since 2016. Before that, I was an auditor at a CPA firm with nonprofits and government.
Well, Elijah Jones, I'm the Director of Programs and Services, and I've been here since 2022.
Second time.
Second time.
Repeat.
Hello, Wendy Colwester, Admin Assistant 2, and I've been here since February.
And if she looks familiar, she was in the Blade on Sunday.
I'm Lisa Clark. I'm the Director of Community and Organizational Impact with Metro Parks Toledo.
Hi, I'm Adrienne Elhai. I'm a psychologist, and I've been in Toledo since almost 16 years now. And I have worked in the community in the area of trauma-informed care and trauma, and mostly in my professional work, work with children and families as young as babies, toddlers, and but I also work with adults as well.
Awesome.
We're happy to have both of you. I'm Eva Bell. I'm the newly elected chair of the board. This is my second go-round. I was a board member, rotated off, and was excited to be invited to return again. And am an attorney by trade, retired from Shoemaker, Luke and Kendrick.
I'm Linda Howe, I'm Chief Probation Officer at Maumee Court. And I don't know, I had 2 terms and then I fulfilled an expired term and I just got reappointed, thank you. I was a former board member for Compass when they were active. My clients at probation, I deal a lot with people who are mentally ill. If anyone shows signs of mental illness, Linda gets them. I also co-facilitate a group of women who were charged with different offenses who most often are victims of domestic violence. So domestic violence is also a passion of mine. And I am glad to be reappointed to the board, and I try not to be too much of a pain in the tootie, but thank you.
I'm Jeff Rand with Clinical Practice of Team Recovery. This is actually my 1-year anniversary of being on the board.
I have a passion for mental health, but in particular, substance use recovery as I have 14 years clean and sober off of drugs and alcohol. In this path. Interesting fact, I'm the senior warden, which in plain speak is president of the congregation of the church right over there, Trinity Episcopal Church, which also does a lot of work with community outreach. I want to see what that looks like from Ireland.
So Michael Carter, I'm the Director of Community Engagement.
Thanks, guys, that was helpful.
Agency provider in the developmental disability.
Hi, Jennifer here. I'm the Assistant Director of Programs and Services. Open session. Richard?
Can I read a real quick note before Richard begins it from Donna and Jeff Heck? Who, as you all know, they provided the seed money to start Danny's Place so that we could go out and qualify for more money. So they were our first donors towards Danny's Place, and Danny's Place is named after their daughter, who lost her life. Jeff and I want to thank you for the absolute beautiful red picture you gave us at Danny's Place fundraiser. We could never thank you enough for all that you all have done to make Danny's Place a reality. We are forever grateful, touched, and honored the Lord put you in our life and look forward to all the lives that Danny's Place will impact for years to come. Blessings to you. Love, Donna and Jeff Hack.
A lot going on in the Wilderness Center. We just came from the gym review meeting. City Council was looking at crazy, also known as gas station heroin. The federal government's looking at it. They want to outlaw this stuff, but very sustainable. This is highly addictive stuff, so legally in gas stations, if you get hooked on this stuff, sorry.
On something else. So they put it on the agenda for next week's city council meeting to vote on, but they're probably just going to go first reading because the week after that, on the 20th at 4 o'clock, they'll have a public hearing. And I have no idea who's going to show up, but they definitely want to look at regulating this. And of course, it's still legal in Michigan, so even if they make it illegal in Toledo, people can just cross the border and get some more. That's a controversy. The Welfare Task Force for Children continues to meet. The county commissioners appointed DBT Solutions as a facilitator, and they needed one because when they get together, there's a lot of agendas in that room. And so they are meeting twice a month. And their target date is November to have a final set of recommendations for Children's Services Board. Just so happens in November, Children's Services Board also has a levy on the ballot, a 1.8 continuation last year of collection. It needs to pass. Plan Commission will meet on August the 14th, all kinds of stuff going on. 601 Junction, that's the former St. Anthony Church. Land Bank currently owns it. They wish to get a special use permit so that the city can operate a community center out of there. It would be run by the Department of Parks and Youth Services. Also, 2045 Stickney, the New Covenant Church of God wants to establish a community center there. They're asking for a special use permit. Costco wants to knock down the old Rite Aid and put in 79 more parking spaces, whatever. Interesting, 815 Navarre, they want to put up a healthcare facility there. It's run into all kinds of problems. In the first place, they say it doesn't conform to the Toledo Forward Plan. The neighbors were actually spreading rumors, oh, this is a methadone clinic. No, it's not. It's 815 Navarre, and it's a healthcare facility. Their major site plan will be heard on the 14th. This is kind of interesting. This is the 2800 West Central. Somebody wants to put a daycare there. This is the form. It's a little light. It doesn't tell you that it's really for autistic children. They kind of left that part out. I know because I attended the meeting. It doesn't tell you that, well, it tells you that the applicant is Drew Scott. I have no idea who Drew Scott is. The real applicant is Spec Results. I asked for the application letter, and they specialize in behavioral health care. They also didn't tell you who the attorney was. It was former mayor of Toledo, Paula Hicks Hudson. All she did at the meeting was introduce herself, and then she sat down. So it will be a daycare for children with autism. They say they're going to have a fenced-off play area. They didn't say what kind of fence, what barbed wire, electric, we don't know. But the neighbors are not happy about it. They do not want to see a fence at the corner of Central and Aldringham. And I know a thing or two about autism. I know that parents of autistic children have to develop very fast reflexes because you never know when they're going to bolt and you got to catch them. They'll bolt into traffic. And I've talked individually with city council members. When this guy comes before you, I hope you ask a whole lot more questions than the Plan Commission did. They approved it in 5 minutes time, but it seems like a strange location to deal with autism. That is a very unpredictable disability. But it's right across the street from NPI. It's where the old St. Anthony's Villa used to be. So and the neighbors are not real happy about it. That will be heard on next week on the 13th in the middle of a crowded agenda. Bear with me for a moment. I don't know if you've heard the July the 24th, President Trump signed his new order on homelessness. This basically says forget about housing first. This says, as usual, he's going to withhold federal funds from any human service agency that doesn't fully cooperate with law enforcement when they come in and clean out these homeless encampments. And it just goes so far as to say we're going to lock up those people with mental health and substance abuse concerns. Civil rights advocates are all over this, but there is a lot of support for it. I don't know what it's going to mean here locally, but I mentioned that so I could mention this. This is a Wall Street Journal editorial. It's called Trump Takes a Stand for the Mentally Ill. It's during his first term, and it's dated February the 19th, 2020. The significance of that date is it's 1 month before the pandemic lockdown. And what he was trying to do was to get rid of the IMD exclusion. Briefly, that was what was passed in 1965. It says you cannot put federal Medicaid dollars into any institution that has more than 16 beds. It's how we downsize state hospitals. And it was shortly after, well, it was a few years after that this board and other boards were created like it to create community services. But prior to the pandemic, he was hoping to get rid of that and go back to the days of state hospitals. The pandemic pretty much torpedoed everything. I think we're going to go back to this. So my point is, I don't think we're going to go back to the days of huge state hospitals, but we're going to talk about it. And when Donald Trump talks about mental illness, nothing good can come of it. His dialogue is dangerous and reckless, and it's right out of the 1950s. He uses words like psycho and sicko. And so I think that for the next few years, the public dialogue is going to be, what do we do with all these terrible homeless people, and what do you do with all these mentally ill, violent people? And I think there will be very little discussion about people living productive lives in the community. And what that means is they will be less likely to seek treatment because the public dialogue only concerns people with psychotic episodes. So, thank you for listening.